Good morning, everyone. Yep, I see you all testing out. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And also, I'm going to probably say this wrong, but I think it's Happy Diwali.
Yeah,
Happy Diwali.
Yeah,
Happy
happy
Diwali.
Diwali.
everybody.
Happy Diwali to everyone.
How are you, Tracy?
I am okay. A little crazy, a little busy, but we're getting there.
Good.
I got a haircut finally, so
Yeah, nice.
normal, a little bit normal life, a little bit.
Yeah.
I hadn't had any cut since like the beginning of March, and so that like I never go that long, and it was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But I know
Yeah.
everybody has all of those same, haven't gone to get your nails done, haven't gone to get your hair cut, haven't gone to, right? Fill in the blank. We all have left off things, haven't gone to the movies.
Yeah.
Like
I
Wonder
made my
Woman
friend
hasn't come
learn-
out. Oh,
I made my
yes.
friend learn how to do a haircut so that she can cut my hair. So she did.
My daughters all throughout this have been experimenting with dyeing their hair and bleaching it and putting it different colors, and
Yeah.
my older one is trimming my younger one's hair, and yep, all of that. So welcome to crazy life, right? So with that said, today is the free-for-all session. We're going to be you guys all have permission to talk, and whatever questions are on your mind, let me open them, let me find the chat box. We want to, or I want to be able to try and help with that and get some questions answered today. I know we had scheduled this for the end, but we had a request for interviews, and it was better to put that one at the end. I'm not sure who was going to be on today. So with that said, it is recording, but we can choose to put this out or not put this out. That's Shahidi. We can make a decision about that. But with that said, I'm ready to get going. So hit me with your worst questions.
It's like everybody's quiet in the beginning.
Everybody's quiet. Okay, so we're gonna take a different tack then, and I would love to hear from everyone about something that you're thankful for.
Oh, I'm gonna say something. It's being COVID-free this entire time this year. I'll just talk about this year. And in general, I think for me, STEMPeers has been the biggest thing. Getting to know what STEMPeers is, being a part of it, and just knowing so many different people who've gone from the professional circle to a personal circle now. So yes, I think for that, yes.
I love that. I love both of those, actually.
Yeah.
I don't want to call on people, but I would love to hear who else has gratitude.
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think having a job, like under these current circumstances, like still like doesn't matter small or big, but still having that job, that security, that's something that I'm thankful for. And meeting you lovely people, knowing everybody's experiences, that has really helped me a lot. So yeah, that's what I'm thankful for.
Yay. Yeah, that's awesome. Exactly, like knowing, awesome. Just having a job, that's very true. Like, I won't say, but yeah, getting paid, yes, making like knowing that it's here and it's consistent, and I don't have to fight for it or be not know when it's going to be gone. Yes, very thankful for that.
That is definitely a challenge. I see some others that are unmuted though, so jump in.
I'm just going to turn on my video. Okay, if everybody's not, like, I do want to ask everybody over here that if you would be interested in learning about a particular career, because I mean, you guys are the new batch, so it's mostly up to you all, and then we have some older people also. But what career track would you be interested in knowing more about? Like, feel free to say it out loud or just type it in the chat box, whatever you're comfortable with.
I think I would say scientific technical writing.
Okay.
I'm totally new to it, and I really want to know how to enter that.
Okay, Srinitya, I will tag you in a video that because we did this
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to look at that? Did that help at all? Did you?
Yeah, but I would like to just know, like, I see people posting writing samples, so I want to know how to write all those. Like, where do they start it from? Is it like, how do they pick up like making blogs, or yeah, those kind of things? How do they start, the writers?
Okay, Tracy, that's me.
Sure. So how do we jump into scientific technical writing? And now I see that someone has also been brave and put in a second question. So let's start with the writing. There's a number of ways that you can start to break into that. The biggest hurdle is having a portfolio of writing that you've done and activities around that. So writing a paper with your PI where you've done part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and part
Yes.
can be from near 0 to almost 100%. And
Right.
when it's published, nobody really understands how much you put into that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the challenge there is, if that's your only stream, right? If it's all very technical writing that you've done,
Right.
it's tough to hear your voice in that technical piece. So people who are looking for scientific writers and looking for that evidence, look for things like a blog, or like putting other modes of scientific communication, like putting a short summary on an article and tweeting it, or same with putting it out there on LinkedIn, or putting it out in some sort of public space so that the public starts to understand what that looks like. If you have a blog and you're blogging about different, this paper came out or that paper came out, or right now there's a lot of people who are doing that with COVID, right? To take
Right.
the technical things that we hear about and put it into what is consumable by the public, right? And
Right.
I think
Okay.
that in that space, that's one space. So be active, right, in your writing. If you really
Right.
want to be a writer, write.
Yes.
If
Okay.
if you're thinking about the edge of that, where it's some of it's writing and some of it's editing, then you want to have editorial activities. One easy way to do that I've set up at 2 institutions now, is to
Okay.
start a peer program where you have a team of, you have an editor-in-chief and some other editors, right? And some of
Right.
them are learning, absolutely, right? And you
Okay.
have someone who's coaching that activity. So a faculty or some level of administrator who's willing to work with that group.
Okay.
or a couple. And then depending on how big your university is and how many people are going to be involved and those kinds of things, right? And it's easy to get started small where you have maybe one or two people who are doing the editing and, maybe one advisor in that space. Doesn't have to be your PI. It can be a different PI. It could be, your person in your postdoc office. It could be a lot of people.
Okay.
Anyone who you think has good expertise in that area. So some universities have scientific writing departments, and you could find
Okay.
someone in that group. You could find a librarian. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to find that person, right? And when you've
Right.
got that
Okay.
sort of core, right? And it can be as small
Okay.
as two, but a little bit
Okay.
bigger.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
start to help others, right? You take on some tasks and you help them with their writing. And
Okay.
that starts to give you experience, like practical experience. So those are two ways
Right.
that I know that postdocs that I've coached have had great success in moving into technical writing, because then they have dimension, right? It's not just, well, I've written X number of papers or papers and book articles or chapters, or maybe you've gotten into patents, but when you get beyond, like, all of that still is very technical, right? So when you get
Right.
into the space where you have um, non-technical or editorial experience, that gives you dimension.
Okay. Okay.
Does that give you
So,
some ideas?
yes, you did actually. You did. So
Okay.
basically, I need to just get started somewhere. So, uh, it just starts with one writing sample. So, I've written manuscripts with my PI,
Mhm.
and I have two papers in which 100% of the work I did. So I feel like, okay, writing is very liberating. It's very nice. Like I focus, and I all my focus is on the writing, and I really feel I'm passionate about it.
Yeah,
So the thing is, as you know, I'm not a PhD holder. I've done masters. So
that's okay.
would that, yeah, would that be okay? Like, can we still
Absolutely.
become scientists, right? Okay, cool. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
there, there is, there's lots of opportunities. The other thing to
Okay.
consider, and
Okay.
this depends on your own personal situation and where you
Right.
are with if you're on a visa or not on a visa and those kinds of things and what your restrictions
Right.
are. Um,
Right.
so with a master's, are you OPT or are you
No, I'm on H4 EAD. It's the
okay?
dependent visa, but with the EAD. So
Okay.
my purpose of joining STEMPeers was basically to network and like find a job.
Hmm.
But while reading many posts, I was encouraged, like, why not become a writer? But I have to start somewhere. So it's not like I can become a writer tomorrow or day after. It takes time, because people are looking for blogs and portfolios from candidates. So I think I'm totally encouraged by the scientific writers in STEMPeers now, that I should try something. So that at least in the future, like in another 2 3 years, I should be able to become one.
Oh, I
So
think, I think you are a writer already. I think you just haven't
okay.
gotten out and started putting it out there. I don't think it takes 3 years of cataloging and creating
Really?
a portfolio.
Okay.
I don't. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
get started. Those early blogs, when you go back to them, you may want to edit them, and that's okay, right?
Okay. Okay.
But
Yes.
recognize that your writing is an evolution too, right? And the
Okay.
way that you
Okay.
write today may or may not be the same as the way that you write in the future. And
That's true.
and
Yeah.
that's okay, because that shows growth. And those are some of the things that, someone would want to be able to see also. And those are good things.
Okay.
So
Okay.
don't, the um there's actually a movie that I really like. Um, it's called Late Night, and it was on, I think it was an Amazon movie, might be a Netflix movie. But
Okay.
it's a gal who works in a chemical plant and she wants to break into comedy writing for a show.
Oh,
Not exactly the same,
okay.
but there's a line in the
Okay.
movie where she's under her desk and she's crying and she's upset because she got fussed at, and the guy pulls her out from under the desk and he says, you know, you're a writer, so write. And that's my advice for you. You're a writer, so write. That's,
Nice.
you know, the blank document is the worst thing. So, you
Okay.
know, put some bullets down on a piece of paper about things that you're, you know, excited about or interested about, and, you
Right.
know, and get started, and share it with your
Okay.
friends and get some feedback, and then write another article and another and another. And they don't have to be huge or long, you know, 200, 500 words, that's plenty.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
again, just get started.
Yeah.
So we've spent a little bit of time on that question. So I want to make sure that I answer some of the others. I see a notation here, Shahini, for tech transfer as an idea
Yes.
for a career
Yeah.
panel, which I think is great and amazing.
I
And
think it's going to be, yes.
um, if you need some ideas of people, let me know. There's another for data scientist positions, and I'll discuss that in a question about how to break in, but I want to get this other question first. So the question is, are there any tips or suggestions that help focus or narrow down on fields for when you start to identify the fields, when you're transitioning out of academia? So the biggest thing is awareness, and that's part of why I, you know, when I give lectures, I try to, you know, highlight what those are. There was a post that one of my colleagues had written, and that was shared in these groups of, you know, job titles that sometimes happen underneath those career sectors. But once you hear about a sector and you've, well, I call it, you know, enough to be dangerous, right? You understand that you have some interest in that, but you don't really know whether that's a good career fit. That's absolutely the time to find people who have that expertise and are doing it, but that maybe came from a background that's a little bit similar to yours, or at least parallel. It's easy enough to go into LinkedIn. There's millions and millions and millions of people there, and the entire platform is built on networking, so it's a good space. But there's other resources, like if your university has an alumni database, you could check there for connections. There's professional societies, you can check there for connections. So those are three, but I'm going to talk about the LinkedIn, and you'll see the parallels to the others. So with LinkedIn, you can go in and you can search. You know, you search on, you know, field or job title or something, and you'll find individuals who are loosely connected to your space. So they might be firsts, in which case that's an easy thing. You're already connected to them. Reach out and say, hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I'd really like to talk about your career transition and how you got from where you were to, you know, fill in the blank. Look at the profile, fill in the blank, so that it's meaningful to where you are now, fill in the blank, right? And your goal in that space is to listen and learn. So you want to go in with a lot of questions. There is an informational interview workshop session seminar that we did, or that I did, and with lots of participation. So it was a group effort. And in that session, I gave a lot of tips on questions, open-ended questions that you could start to ask, but you really want them to be customized. So you want to go in and, you know, again, look at their profile, Google them, you'll find their social medias, you'll find other, you know, if they blog, or, you know, if they've got other platforms that they're on, you'll find all of that. And then you can ask some really specific and tailored questions about, you know, how did you move from here to there? A couple of my favorites are, you know, what was the most useful thing you learned in the past that you've brought forward into your career? What was the thing you wish you learned in the past that you need now, right? And from some of those questions, you get a sense of whether you can see yourself in that kind of role. So you've chosen a sector and you've talked with a couple of people, let's say 2 to 5, in that sector. And you'll get a sense whether it's a sector you want to pursue or not. And then, you know, choose the next sector and the next sector and the next sector. And you can do these all simultaneously, but it's a matter of choosing a general career path for yourself that's narrow enough to find jobs and apply and sort of be in one mindset while you're doing those applications, as opposed to saying like, I want to go to industry, which is like, it's a lot of different things, and it's too broad, right? But if you've narrowed it down to, let's say, scientific technical writing, then excuse me, I totally said that, scientific technical writing. If you've picked that as your sector, then you have a narrow band of job titles, and it could be writing, it could be editing. In science writing, I will say there's also medical writing, so be careful about which one you're actually going for, and pay attention to that. So that's for the previous person that
Right.
we were talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
So, and there are distinct differences between what they do too. So science writing typically works with like scientists and people who are trying to get published but don't have the time. And then medical writing is almost really for a slightly different population, because it's often for doctors and patients. It could be working in a company, could be for companies, so it's a different population of who is reading those
Right.
documents.
Right.
My comments about how to prep for that are the same, right? It's
Okay.
just
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
Although if you knew one focus or the other, you would want to have sort of that slant in your writing. So that will help you as you move forward. So I hope that helps with the other question, though, about how to try to narrow down fields, right? It's hard because you're going to hear about a lot of things. I like that we've put career panels into this platform, and that you have access to some of that through university and through, if you look at your professional societies, see if they're doing virtual career panels, and what's happening in those spaces. And between the three of those, you should have some access to it. I will say STEMPeers is the one, we're doing it the most frequently, but we're keeping them focused on, smallish topics, so that they're not, so broad that, it's not a, careers in industry, right? There's too many, right? So let's narrow that down to, if you want to do regulatory, if you want to do, actual science, what does that look like? Or if you want to, be the tech transfer person, or if you want to be in a space, let's say technical writing in a company, that happens, right? They need to get their stuff published too. So, think about what that looks like, and then, make sure you take advantage of all the panels that are happening that you have some interest in, because people who sit on the panels, they're already primed to say yes to help you, and they would probably be willing to pick up the phone or do a video chat and talk with you. Okay.
I can, because I'm in the same stage right now. One month, I think I have it narrowed down, and the next month, I don't, because I'm going back and I'm like, oh, that sounds great. Let's do that. But what I have been doing is there's a link that was shared in Gurukool platform, and I can share that again. Or if you just type Abira Ganguly's name, it should come up. It's basically somebody made this exhaustive list of careers you can go into, uh, either in
Indiana
industry
School
or
of
even
Medicine.
in academia, which are not bench work, bench roles, basically. But there are lots of these job titles that we are not aware of. And what I have been doing is actually going on LinkedIn and typing them in the jobs to see what the job description asks for.
Mm-hmm.
And see if that's something that excites me, if that's something I think I would like to do, and then trying and figuring out if they need something more for that, because there are quite a few positions where they want some kind of demonstrated interest. So that first figuring out what the job looks like, then try and connect with people. And then, like, again, as Tracy mentioned, see if you have first connections. If not, if you have second connections, you can always use that to connect with them and talk to them. And people are generally very open and friendly, and they will talk to you. They will give you their 15 minutes of time. Not like some people just don't respond. There are people like that, but the people who will, they will give you their time and talk to them. And another thing that Tracy's mentioned before, and there are other people, when we talk to somebody, ask for 3 more references before you leave the call, so that you can talk to 3 more people before you are done with that.
So 3's a lot.
But okay, how
I would
about
just
start
say,
with 1?
well, phrase the question, is there anyone else you recommend I talk to?
Yes.
And you can use that blanket language, right? And if they think of 3, then they'll tell you 3. If they can think of 1, then they'll tell you 1. If they can't think of anybody right off the top of their head, they might say, oh, you know, let me figure out who, and then get back to you, because they may want to protect their network, and they may want to ask, you know, hey, I had someone who talked to me, and I'd like to refer them to you, in which case they're going to give you a handoff, which is great, because that person is more likely to talk with you. So you will get into the space where people don't answer. And in that case, move to the next one, move to the next one. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket, is a Americanism that, you know, don't plan on, I want to work for Amazon. I only want to work for Amazon, and that's it. Now, to be fair, Amazon is enormous, and there are lots of opportunities within Amazon, and they're hiring like gangbusters. So if that's the space you want to be in, it might be okay. But you know, if you were picking a tinier company, let's say, and there's only one space and one role, like, that could be tough. But most of these career sectors have options, and you have the ability to flex in different spaces and have opportunity. So with that said, I want to dive into data science. With data science, it is all about your ability to understand volumes of data, make sense of a larger project, and then technical knowledge to dive into that data and be able to find either patterns or answer, you know, be able to ask questions and answer them. So if you have a fundamental understanding of machine learning, or random forests, or I'm trying to think of other, you know, k-means clustering. If you've got a fundamental understanding in that space, then you have the ability to start to step into that. It doesn't take a lot right now, because the field is very hot, and there are people who are willing to take on new folks with, you know, the ability to critically think, the ability to be creative, the ability to be innovative, and that's all of you. If you're really truly interested in that space, I would start with you know, some online coursework that might not cost you anything, just so that you can start to show the pattern of interest in that space. Again, it's establishing a little bit of expertise, but also establishing the fact that you're interested and dedicated and passionate about it. I have one former postdoc who really wanted to get into data science, was a bench scientist, and she went into a master's level program to have a I want to say it was an 18-month master's level program, and she knew she still had time on her postdoc, and this was something she wanted to add. She's doing it all in her own time, and she really wants to shift into that space. So that was the way that she addressed that. So there's everything from, you know, you already have a lot of the skill set. So certain fields, psychology has a lot of data, data science applications, statistics, obviously. Some of the mathematics, so mathematical oncology modeling, does a lot of the same things that overlap with data science. There's economics is another field that does heavy analysis that mirrors data science, and some of those areas can step into that very, very quickly. But no one knows your experience like you do, so you have to assess how much have I done, legitimately done, in that space to be able to, step into that. And if it's, an interest because it's a hot field, or it's an interest because you want to get away from the bench, or you really love the data, having the fundamental understanding of where the data comes from is really key. When I was in my statistics program, I went and did lab work because I wanted to know where the data came from. And it really did enhance the way that I thought about the problems that I was trying to develop methodology for. So it is a two-way street. And I think when you come to it from that, heavy lab side, it is a value add, but you have to have enough statistics and ability to actually, do so Python, R, could be SAS, could be Stata, SQL programming. There's all kinds of different ways that you can get into that, and you want to have enough. You need to know enough to be dangerous, I think, is the the statement that I love in this space. So you have to start doing it. If you want to do it, you have to kind of start doing it. And another one of my clients right now, my coaching clients, is shifting her area into this space, and she's actually serving on an advisory board for a group that needs some of that done. So she's learning as she's doing, and she actually has some data and a project to work on that is, it's going to be able to be publicized in public, but it's not, written up as a journal article in the same way that you would do that. I hope that's helpful, but I like the idea of doing a panel on data science and hearing some other opinions about how to break in. You tried the MyIDP for jobs that fit with personality. I got 75 to 80% match with what I'm already doing. So absolutely. And part of the challenge with the MyIDP, and remember, I think I said this before, is that you have to make sure that your skills basically have a normalized distribution. So some in the 1, a little more in the 2, the most in the 3, a few, slightly less in, some in 1, more in 2, lots in 3, some in 4, few in 5, right? For both skills and interests. Otherwise, you are going to have everything matching, and it's going to be really tough to distinguish between them. What I do like about the MyIDP is it does break down those sectors and gives you some reading material, although it's a little outdated now, I think. I don't know that they've gone in to update it. So pros, cons. If you want to venture into consultancy, okay, so I'm going to give this as maybe 2 areas, because consultants are not necessarily the same as project management. They can overlap. Sometimes those are 2 separate sectors. So think about what that looks like, and maybe Shahini, maybe we could do a session in that space, right? The BCG, there's some boutique consulting firms too, McKinsey's, they all have programs about how to break into consultancy. I would pay attention to some of those if that's really the role that you want to take. If it's something slightly different about breaking into, let's say, project management, so scientific management, so scientific manager or scientific director at university, for example, and I'm giving an example of a couple postdocs I know who've moved into that type of role. They started out as lab managers, and then they moved their way up into, working as the scientific manager or scientific directors for, the big PO1 or U54 grants. and they've moved up in that direction. The two that I'm thinking of right now are both at MD Anderson, and one of them is basically running all the science in a department. And then one of them is running all of the science for one of the moonshots, if you guys know what I'm talking about. There's a big institution level project basically in a cancer area. So, but both of them started as lab managers and moved their way up. And, it's strategically taking those steps to be able to get to that space. I have another postdoc who moved from her science, which was bench initially, and then she kind of shifted into more of the social science side, and now she is a project manager for someone who, so it's not exactly lab manager, it's kind of like that, but it's not a wet lab. So she's their science manager, but or it's their clinical trials manager, let me call it that. And along the way, she decided that she wanted to get a PMP certificate. So she felt like that was what was going to help her progress and promote into that space. And I think she's found that pretty useful. So that's a couple of, those are some thoughts on breaking into that space. If you've tried to connect in LinkedIn and you haven't gotten feedback, I would, check assumptions on who you're connecting with, and then, see if there's someone in Gurukool, check the database, and, let's see who knows who.
I was going to tell Cynthia, I can connect you to somebody I spoke to when I was thinking of project management as well. She works at NIH right now. She's part of Gurukool and STEMPeers. She went from postdoc to being a project manager at NIH. And she's been very helpful with her tips and everything. So I'll connect you with her. She might take some time to respond because she's trying to juggle her kid and her family and also the work. But yeah, if I don't, just remind me. We are connected on Facebook, so just remind me if I forget to. But yeah, I will connect you.
Yeah, about to ask about the PMP. So PMP certificate, Masters of Public Health, Masters in Data Science. I've heard all of these things that have, there's some other additional certificate programs that you can do for other things. So I'm going to lump them all together. Additional training. They are a choice because depending on how much experience you have in that space, you may already have enough and you may not need that certificate. Now, there are some roles that say you need it. However, almost all of them will say within 2 years of starting, which means that the company may pay for that exam, which is a couple $1,000s, I think. And that's a great thing, right? Because then it's a perk of actually getting into that area and getting somebody else to pay for your test. But it gives you some time to think about what that looks like, and it may just be that you start the process, much like starting writing or starting doing some data science or starting learning about data science or starting to do some low level projects that you can get your hands on. And there is a lot of data out there in the public space. If you really want to get your hands dirty with data and analysis, it's certainly possible to do that. And the other thing I want to say is thank you, Shahini, for jumping in with the connection for the project management. Certainly, Cynthia, if you want to connect to either of the two gals that I'm thinking of at Anderson, they're my former postdocs, and they'd be absolutely happy to talk to you. I'm happy to hand you off. They are not part of the platform, but I am, right? And we can't have everybody in the small circle of Gurukool, but everybody knows somebody, and I think that's the benefit of this particular platform. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we can all connect, whether it's stays inside for right now or starts to expand outside of that. Absolutely happy to connect you with those two. Make sure you're connected to me in LinkedIn. I think we are. And in that case, then I can just do the quick handoff with you in that space. But I'm glad that you made that point, Shahini, because there's a database that talks about where everybody's been. There are others who are like you, who are working to get into particular fields or areas, and it's not a competition. It feels like a competition. I'm going to say it's not a competition. If we are all helping each other, we will all rise, and I really truly believe that. Especially right now, there's a lot of people who are finding that collaboration is a stronger pull than that competition piece. So if you have a colleague who's working in the same direction as you are, it's okay. You come with different skill sets. You're going to want different things out of your careers, and you're going to go work for different company, or you actually might work for the same company. That would be great. That would be even better, because you've built that connection and that collaboration already. That would actually be a plus for a company. But as you're growing in your career, asking questions, finding out who to talk to, everybody in Gurukool is really giving of their time. There's a lot of us who bleed over onto the STEMPeers side, and we share expertise and stuff there too. But this platform is for this, and helping people grow and helping people answer questions just like these. All right, we got 17 minutes left at least. I'm willing to stay late. I know we got a slow start because I was talking about getting my hair cut.
Tracy, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So again, as I said, I'm again back in my confused state right now of what to do next.
Correct.
So I'm like more and more I try to figure out, because again, consulting, in most of the cases, they require some kind of demonstrated interest. And that's why I was thinking of doing a short postdoc as a stopgap and also get some internship experience in that time, right? But sometimes I feel like maybe I don't know if I want to even do a postdoc. Like the thought of going back to lab is not the most happy thought.
Fair.
I've been looking into other things like scientific marketing, business development roles. So my question to you is how I don't want to say how easy, but how much chances are there in going into these kind of roles straight out of a PhD? Without having a lot of, as people say, demonstrated interest, going into scientific marketing, business development. I've been looking at roles which are also, like I saved some on LinkedIn the other day, which are marketing analysis, and the way it was worded was like you need to be able to handle a lot of different projects at the same time, like make reports and all that stuff. But I am not sure if they want something extra or not. But I'm sure if a resume comes through which has more internship experiences, they're going to pick that. But I'm saying, what are the chances of getting into such kind of roles? And also product management. I looked into that as well.
So it's really easy when you are at this crossroads to see all of the options and to think, oh, I want some of that. No, I want some of that. No, I want some of that. No, I want some of that. What I will say is, this is your next career step. It is not your final career step. I'm sure you've heard me say this before. And if you haven't, then I'll say it again. Taking a career step now does not mean that you cannot completely change your mind and go in a completely different direction. So that said, right, it's a step. It's not a misstep. It is a step. There is a big, huge myth that everyone's career path is here to here to here to here, and all of those dots line up on a straight line.
Right.
I wish that were true, but that's not true. You know, you're going to take steps in other directions. You're going to gain skill sets that are valuable for other things. And, you know, your career path is that squiggly all over the place. Some people call it chutes and ladders, or snakes and ladders, I guess the game's called in some other parts of country or the world. So that's the first piece. The second piece is when you have a job description and you've seen it and you're really wondering, like you just said, how does this play into the role, or what does it really mean, right? If it says this in the job description, what does that really mean? You want to have one or a couple of people who are in that career path. That's a great question to take to an informational interview. You find a couple people who are in that space and you say, hey, I'm looking at, you know, you're at Johnson & Johnson, but I'm looking at this rollover at Pfizer and it says that I need to be able to do this. Is that something you do on a regular basis? Is that something that I should expect to do? Is it something, how do I train for that? Or how do I prepare for that? And you can ask those questions. Okay. So that's a way to very, very appropriately tailor questions to that kind of role. And if you're looking within company, that's great, but you can look across company and that's also fine. So you had another question in there, another comment in there that I was going to say, and because I wrote a number 3 down and then I didn't get the idea out. But I think it's a matter of finding the thing that you're the most passionate about. Or if you have 2 things, then let it be 2 things and keep your focus in that direction and try very hard not to be distracted by all of the, well, I could also go and do. Oh, I know, it was about the postdoc. So a postdoc can give you an opportunity to train in the area that you're interested in moving into. So if you decided to take a postdoc, even though you don't want to go back to the lab, because it offered you the opportunity to get training for free or no cost, or, you know, or low cost or whatever in the other thing, then that might be a strategic decision as your gap step, right? Now, I will also say for you, if you're thinking about that project management, that business development, the one who was thinking about tech transfer, there are starting to be, they call them postdocs, but they're not really postdocs. It's taking people from science and training them in that space. So Moffitt, for example, Moffitt Cancer Center here in Tampa had started a program like that in their tech transfer and business development office. And they have, I think it was 1 fellowship a year is what they started with. But they were looking to grow that. And so I'm going to say if Moffitt has it, I know that other universities have it too. So if you're doing your postdoc and you're able to intern in that office and get that other experience, right? Don't forget to look at, you know, companies and see what their internship / fellowship programs look like. Johnson & Johnson has a leadership, they call it a leadership development, but it really is on the business side of the business. And, you know, that one in particular is looking for people that are fresh out of school. I'm concerned that it might be not as well. Let me just leave it there. They are wanting people who are fresh out of school. They don't want people who have been in any kind of, you know, real job role for a while. So, you know, think about what is the most appropriate thing that you want to do, and then see if there's that mid-level step, if that's where you're, you know, if you feel like, okay, well, I need to learn this thing, right? Is there a way to learn it and still get paid at least minimally at a postdoc level, which is, you know, pretty, you know, 50K is normal and that's livable, right? Pretty much everywhere except for the coast, like the West Coast and Northeast is 50 is tough, but you know, in the central part of the country, that's livable, and it's, you know, you're not eating ramen and rice and
Yeah,
macaroni
yeah,
and cheese
yeah,
all the
yeah.
time. You're not a grad student, although you still will be hungry and you will still appreciate a free meal whenever there's something at a seminar. So I don't think that ever goes away. I think we all carry that with us as long as we live.
Right. Okay.
But those are
Okay.
some ideas about
Program.
even your path.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy.
Oh, always. Okay. Anything more straightforward or simple or that we haven't touched? So we haven't touched resumes at all. We haven't touched cover letters. We haven't touched interviews. And I know that we'd had a couple people who had asked about that. So we're bringing that lecture back in particular because the recording disappeared. And so I want to make sure that it's there. I could just record it and post it, but it'd be better if I have you guys to ask questions and have it be a richer experience. What about anything left over from the STEMPeers conference? I know I moderated the panel on integration of work and life, but there was also the amazing keynote, if you guys had a chance to catch it either live or on recording. And there was two other sessions that I did not get to go to. Quiet bunch today. Anonymous questions are fine. Otherwise, did anyone who didn't talk in the beginning about their gratitude, does anybody want to chime in now?
Since I am not hearing anyone, so I thought like I'll just go ahead.
No, please.
I'm absolutely grateful having you all here, and I'm connected to all these wonderful people. It's absolutely so great, and it's been like I always wondered about like how to navigate through all different career paths, and I'm getting these opportunities to look for different career paths. I'm so happy about that, and definitely I'm happy that my family and friends, they're good, although I lost my uncle to COVID, which was like just a little heavy, but then rest of the families, they are doing good, and I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, and thanks for answering all these questions, maybe stupid or ignorant or whatever it is, but yeah, I just thought like I'll go ahead and put those things.
There are no stupid questions. I can absolutely promise you that. Especially in this group, if you start to think of the collective brain power just on the video today, like that, not a stupid question. Nobody's really trained you to do this. It's why I found this niche as it's my happy place. I get to help people figure out what they want to go do, and I get to help them get there. That is my joy. What I will say is I need to remember I want to connect you with a third person, the gal who got her PMP certificate, just so that you can talk with her and get her perspective and understand,
Yeah.
why she did that piece. Happy to do that. So And I'm sorry for your loss of your uncle. That's really hard and really tough. And I have not lost anyone yet, but a lot of my family's in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is having an enormous surge right now. So it's a heavy risk, and I worry. So I feel that. Okay, so I want to jump in. There was one other person who put in a question. What are my thoughts about job fairs, especially virtual ones? I think that's a great thing, because your ability to connect with employers, if you were at conferences, if you were at, walking through a vendor fair, walking through a vendor fair separate from a job fair, right? But, the ability to connect with those kinds of people is really limited. So if you want to go to a job fair and, see what that looks like, I think it's an opportunity, and all opportunities are potentially good. It gives you another point at which to talk to someone who's actually hiring, in which case, it's, you don't have an application in, you're not actively being interviewed, although it's a soft interview. So, it gives you the point and the opportunity to ask questions. Shahini could actually take that question. Let's say she was at a virtual, so I'm going to, you're my example now. If you had the job description and you're interested in it, and you're at a job fair and you're talking with someone who's recruiting, you can say, I'm really interested in this, but I'd like to know more about this, or I'd like to understand, what kind of experience are you actually looking for this? And hear their side of, of what that looks like. We read those job descriptions with, I need to meet all of these. There's 100 requirements. I need to meet every single one of them. And that's not reality. No one is that person. The person who wrote that job description is thinking, who can I, if I had the perfect person, they would know all of this stuff, right? And frankly, what they put in those is often more than one actual physical job, because they can. And some of it is because they know they're not going to get everything, and that gives them some flexibility to understand, okay, well, some of these things are sort of running parallel to each other, and if we had these things, we wouldn't need this other thing, right? Or we can find someone else to fill that gap. So knowing that they aren't going to get their unicorn, they still put the unicorn job application out there. And sometimes you just have to, recognize that you're a horse without, a horn, or without wings, or without whatever, and understand that, you fit a lot of it, and you can bring a perspective to the table that is important and valuable, and apply. The data that I have on this is challenging, because if you divide by gender, the data I know is men will apply if they meet about half of the requirements. Women won't apply until they meet 70 or 80% of the requirements. And that presents a challenge, because there is a group who are self-limiting. And I'm guilty of this too. So I will read a job ad and I will think, oh, well, I don't have that, so I'm not going to apply. And that self-limiting is tough. And I have one friend who, whenever I'm hedging or saying something, she will send me the text message that says, do not self-limit. And being willing to put myself out there, even though I know that I may or may not be the one who's picked, recognizes that the more I put myself out there, the more opportunities I have to actually find the thing that I want to do, and not just from a piece of paper and a handful of bullets that may or may not be accurately describing the role that I would be stepping into, or the people I would work with, because you can't find that out until you're actually interviewing. So I think, job fairs do give you that opportunity to continue to, have conversations with people, and dig deeper into the roles that you think you might be interested in. And there's no commitment because you're not employed there. You're not signing on the dotted line, and go and ask questions, have jobs that you might be interested in for the particular companies and the people that you're talking with, or just understand what the company is about, and then talk to those people specifically. So, if you had a list of 10 companies that were at a job fair, and, research them quick, understand, what do they do? What are they passionate about? What's their mission? What's their vision? What are their values? And, if you know anybody in those companies, talk to them, figure out what kind of culture and work environment it is. And then when you're at the job fair, you'd be able to, ask those questions and say, well, I didn't find any jobs open. What kind of candidates are you looking for? And then when they give you the answer, then you're able to say, yeah, I fit with that, or I don't. Or I'm not interested in that. And that's one of the toughest things, I think, is you have broad experience sets, and you may have recruiters reaching out to you with job offers, or potential jobs that would lead to offers, and you have to make decisions about, I don't want to go do that. Shahini commented earlier that she did not want to go back to the lab, and knowing that about yourself, it's step number one, self-assessment, right? Figuring out what you want to do is as important as what you don't want to do. And saying no to an opportunity feels risky sometimes. And especially now, I think for some people, it feels especially risky. But if you said yes and you got into that position, you'd be fundamentally unhappy. And ultimately, that will show up one way or another. And it's not good. So don't do it. Where you have the flexibility and opportunity not to do it, please don't do it. Okay, that's a lot. That was some heavy stuff at the end too.
Yeah.
Thank you for being my example, by the way.
Oh, that's absolutely.
Sometimes getting to be the example means you get extra information that you hadn't thought about, or that I didn't give in another part of the question. Any other questions for us?
So I know next week was supposed to be a career panel, and this is my fault. I forgot to put up a poll before. So I asked today. So I'm going to try my best to get together a panel by next Saturday, like with people who are already in STEMPeers and who have transitioned, like just reaching out to the in-house people that we have to say, if not, if it's okay with everybody, then we might go into December 13th, like that time with the career panel, and end with that. So just to let everybody know, like I'm going to reach out to people on Monday and see. Well, but the way we did the conference, we had people getting back to us within like an hour. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can have that for this one as well, especially if I'm going to reach out to people who are from STEMPeers and have done the journey, and then maybe they can touch on, like, if needed, they can also talk about like visa issues of being like, going from this visa to that visa when looking into jobs and everything as well. So I'm going to do that, but I'm letting it out there, like just saying it, telling it to everybody who's here today. If not, I'll just move that back to the last panel, making that the second one. But there will be 2 career panels this time for sure. That's there.
Yep. So I know I have, I think the interviews is on December 12th. So you might be talking about the weekend after that.
Oh yeah, then that'll be the weekend after that, like right before Christmas, then that will be.
Yeah, that would be the 19th, the Saturday the 19th.
Yeah.
Which is still fine. I think, don't.
Is that fine with everybody here? I just want to make sure, because they are the ones who would be coming in. Yes, no. Sounds
Yes.
great. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's meaning, so one comment I'll make is that 2 people can easily make a panel and have it be a very meaningful conversation. 3 people is sort of the sweet spot. 4 is almost too many. So, you know,
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to get a ton of yeses. You know, just serially reach out. You know, you can start with 3, and then if you get a
Right.
no or whatever, or if you don't hear back, and if it takes too long, I'd rather see, you know, I think everybody will agree, I'd rather see a meaningful panel than not.
Yeah.
And depending on the topic you pick, if you need me to help you brainstorm, let me know.
Sure.
Tomorrow, I've got a full day, but I'd be willing
Yeah.
to
Tomorrow
I've
might not.
got breaks to brainstorm. So
Yeah, tomorrow might not be the best for me as well. I'm trying to work on this deadline with my advisor right now. But Monday
okay.
should be like the week.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. I feel like today's Sunday and it's not. I have a whole
Okay.
day weekend. Yay. So I meant Monday. Sorry. I have a full day Monday,
Okay.
but I'm happy to, you know, shoot me a text message or something and say,
Sure.
I need
Sure.
help brainstorm.
Yeah.
And if, you know, I don't mind pulling in people from outside, it helps give breadth and depth. And
Sure.
I'm happy to tap my network and make people do stuff for me. That's fine.
Okay. Prerna, I will remind me, because you just mentioned data scientists. There was somebody in the conference, in the panel, who went into data science from psychology. And as Tracy mentioned, psychology, they do a lot of data
Yeah.
analysis by default, like that's part of their dissertation. But she actually quit her PhD in her final year, and then she took up a job as a data scientist. And I reach out to her, but just remind me, I can connect you with her. She's not on LinkedIn, so it's going to be an email connection. But if I don't get back to you within the end of this week, just remind me, Prerna. Otherwise, I will do that.
That'll be awesome. Thank you.
Yep. I was just thinking of people who are in, because she came into the panel. But again, yeah, she's done data science for her PhDs. And so that's kind of what she liked, and she went into it, even though her degree was in psychology. So yeah.
Well, and it's another reason why, you know, individuals, I guess in the middle of her degree, did she get a master's along the way or did she just quit outright?
Yeah, the psychology program is in that way in Kent State. So you get a master's and then you
And
work.
then you get okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had another colleague of mine when I was in graduate school who quit. She got her master's and she quit graduate school, and she just made the decision it wasn't for her. And she's had an extremely rich career working for companies in like sales, and she's big companies and doing really, really well. And that's just that's her niche. And, you know, she's rare with a master's. PhDs are even rarer. So, you know, she's in good company, and she gets a lot of respect even for just with that degree, and didn't need the other degree. So it's, you know, fundamentally understanding what you need out of your program is important too. I am not saying go quit your programs. If it's the right decision for you, absolutely do it. But, you know, do the research on that before you do those things. Okay. With that said, we're a little bit past 12. So I want to double check in with those who didn't comment today and make sure that there is not a burning question in there that you'd like to ask. Again, anonymous is fine. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and call it. We are at 12:10. Thank you guys all for your time today. I hope everybody learned something important. You know, think about where you have connections and where you can share those with everyone else. And again, no dumb questions. These were amazing questions today, and things that I don't always dive into when I'm lecturing, but I'm going to pull out a couple of them and make sure to highlight them for future ones. When we're talking in different spaces. So thank you all. Happy Diwali.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.